Good day. Can you believe it? I'm here again. And I'm here to say that you are not alone. I'm right here, as always, to give some information. See if we can't get some good conversation going. And this week, like the last couple of weeks, I kind of wanted to change tune a little bit and see if we couldn't get onto like a different path. Try and move a little bit less serious, and try and reach out to some of the further out arms that have to do with epilepsy. As always, we'll start out. There's a lot of us out here. There's a lot of us. Let me see. There's a lot of us. Epilepsy is a terrible silent disease. Many of us have it. You are not alone. Come tell me your story. Tell us all. Enjoy some conversation, some tunes, some optimism. But remember, I am not a doctor, a nurse, a psychologist, a therapist. I probably cannot take your blood pressure properly. Why? Because I'm not trained to. In order to come speak, you must have someone there who can help you in case of an emergency. Unless you speak to us ahead of time just to confirm, because not everybody is uncontrolled epileptic. A lot of people have their seizures under control, and we take that into consideration. Have a brief video chat before the show, confirm specifics. If you'd like to chat, Sunday isn't the day for you, just let me know. I'm pretty open. We can do it anytime during the week. If there is an emergency, there is a delay, we will just stop the feed. It's already traumatic enough having epilepsy. Watching somebody else have an episode is not very fun either. As well as if you come to try anything crazy, we'll just shut it off before anybody even knew it happened. So don't waste your time. So, hey, you're not alone. And I see quite a few people have shown up so far. All right. Hi, Angela. And See Lucky and Steve out there. Vicky, hi Vicky. Oh, Cindy D, hi Cindy. Well, today I want to talk about epilepsy and I guess art, creativity, art and epilepsy in general. What is there a correlation? Is there a connection? Is there reasons to fear having epilepsy if you are an artist? Does it help? Does it hinder? I have a lot of questions because I myself, I consider myself an artist. I enjoy making things and creating things and just trying to be creative in general. I mean, no matter what it is, I do woodwork, I build things, I make music, I draw, I paint, I play music of different instruments. Uh, I skateboard, I snowboard, I rock climb. I don't know. I always find something fun, some way to I guess find a rush. Which not necessarily has to do with epilepsy. I don't know. At least not as far as I know. I think that has more to do with other factors about me. But I'm quite thrill seeking in that sense. But honestly, I consider myself an artist at this point. Can't be a contractor currently, so I got to be something. I can't be nothing. It's not an option. Hey, I got to be something. And today, I want to see if some of these thoughts that I've had regarding having seizures and being an artist could be answered. Because I had a few questions. They're not. It's not like they're very deep questions. They're pretty general. Pardon me. But recently I've been working on memory and my memorization techniques and different ways of keeping myself calm when I have situations, when I have episodes, after episodes, when I'm ictal, pre-ictal, interictal, because art has always been important to me. And now if I can use it as a tool to help my memory while I'm having so many episodes that have seemed to have really, it's created a hard time, not only for my long term, but my short term, just different problems, trying to remember the most basic things, words that I've said thousands of times in my life, I have trouble coming up with. Remembering where something is that I just set down. Just really simple things that in the past I wouldn't have had trouble with. I've also had, if you've watched any of the previous episodes, I've had a lot of talk in the last couple of years about having brain surgery and different devices and different things that are pretty dramatic in my eyes. You know, I mean, I took medicine. I tried medicines, all kinds of different medicines. I've benefited the most from dietary changes and abstinence from alcohol and different drugs and stuff of that nature. The things I consider drugs. Pardon me. Holy cow. So lately I've been researching different people who are artists, different historical folks that were said to have epilepsy as well, and we're trying to still be known as artists. Um, I came across a lot of good stuff, a lot of good people, a lot of beautiful artwork, a lot of very impressive things that gave me hope, that helped me feel inspired. That, you know, if I did have to have one of these surgeries, that maybe it's not the worst thing that could happen. That maybe there is hope. But they also had a lot of things that they said that scared the living crap out of me, that give me fear in a manner that I mean, I feel vulnerable even talking about it, just because it's not normal for me to feel fear. It's not something I'm used to. I jump off of cliffs into water. I ride BMX and skateboard in my 30s. I climb up the sides of buildings that I know I can get back off of easily enough. Even with all my health issues, even with my disability, it's who I am, and I don't foresee that changing. But if I did take one of these steps, it may. And so then what's left of me? Who am I at that point? What do I become? What's my potential? Who can I be? Can I still be me? Because that's all I'm really worried about. I think of it in the sense that it took me a long time to figure out who I am. And I still ask every day. But that's the person that I am. That's the person I recognize. That's the person I wake up and I know how to be. If I have surgery, if they stick something in my chest that zaps my brain, they put something in my head that zaps my brain, they take a chunk out of my brain, remove a part of my brain, am I still me? I don't know. So I went out looking for people who have had to deal with this. And it's amazing. It's amazing, some of the stuff I came across, some of the people that I encountered. It's hard for me to remember names, so I had to write a lot of them down. But it it did give me hope. I did find people that have truly not allowed their disability to hinder their ability. I want to be that if I have to. If that's what it comes down to, I want to be that person. I want to be able to say that I was strong enough. I was strong enough to survive this. Wow. What's up, kitty? Are you having a problem over there? I swear they don't make a noise until I go onto a camera.
I said in the chat, I was like, as soon as you get on, Frankie starts crying out.
No, they always do that. They're so funny.
It's like they know it's quiet.
Oh, it's nice and quiet. You got some food somewhere for me? You're so cute. Just come over here and I'll hug you. It'll be great. You're a good stress reliever. It's like having one of those cushy balls or whatever. Apparently, I have a frog in my throat suddenly right here as soon as I start talking. Yep, good thing I'm not singing tonight. Holy cow, pardon me. This is insane. Give up. That was... Woo, okay. So, I think I can breathe. Had some breathing issues lately. They have not told me what was wrong. They threw medicine at me that I'm allergic to. So that's not going to happen. Regardless, I started looking for people who used art not only for epilepsy, but people who also used it as therapy in general, art as a therapy, a way to overcome their depression, their mania, their there's so many things, autism. There's so many things that people have that get overlooked or get a stigma. They've been stigmatized for so long, and I mean that's the reality of it. Is epilepsy's had a stigma for basically its entirety. Let me jump here. I don't know why that did that. Down you. I don't know how that works. Let's try this. I'll get it. I apologize. That was supposed to work differently, but I'm using a different computer today, so it's kind of odd. Apparently that one doesn't count. Oh, I see. I see. This is
What's the matter? I'm hearing you get sounding electronic. I don't know if okay, now you look like you're back. You were like buzzing out there for a second. You sounded like a transformer.
Yeah, we're getting a ton of wind right now. I'm not sure why this is being so stubborn, and it will not let me right-click this to save my life. Can I right-click, please? That would be great. Copy hyperlink. Yep. Here, let's try this. I don't like your computer, La. So I'm not having very good luck here. It's fighting me very hard. I had it all set up, but I got it wrong. Ha! Winner. That's right. How are you doing, Lucky?
I'm doing good. I actually used to go to an art
Well,
therapist, so this is interesting.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, that's
Yeah.
it's the stuff that I've learned just talking about this and reading different stuff has been it's awesome. It really changes how I have felt, how I've felt about everything. Oh, I am you. Hey, good to see you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I've used art as therapy
Boulder.
for a long time.
That's
So
awesome.
yeah, there's a place
I may
actually.
have to just close this extra. Oh,
I don't know if the
sorry,
place
dude. There's a
survived
place right here. I'm gonna close out the
huh?
pandemic.
Yeah,
Uh-oh.
I don't know if the place survived the pandemic, but the place that I used to go to, they used to do all kinds of like group art therapy for just people in general, and it was like a women's group, and then they also did it with kids, and they incorporated music and everything to it. Also, it's really awesome.
That's really cool. That's really cool. I guess I want to start basically by going into some of the I guess the history of what I was finding. And this site Science Direct, I've had good luck finding my way to different literature that's helpful in other ways. They always have links to many different articles and reviews, peer reviews, scholarly ones. It's all scholarly stuff, and you can get into a lot of this. Like if you go to college and stuff, they'll let you look at a lot of this stuff for free. They want you to pay for a lot of it, but a lot of the stuff, you can get yourself guided to the right ideas and places just by going through these types of places. And one of the things that I found is that this right here is basically just the abstract for their full article, but it has some points in it that I believe easy enough just for me to read them out. So I'm just going to read a couple of these parts out real quick and then give you my thoughts on them. The historical allure of epilepsy transcends academic circles and serves as a fascinating critique of the state of times, its values, judgments, and mythos of people. Immortalized and laid bare in artistic renderings of epilepsy are societal truths, at times both disparately and grandiose and grotesque. During the Middle Ages and the Renaissance, the European discourse on epilepsy assumed religious fervor. Epilepsy was considered a demonic machination, and its cure an act of divine intercession. A similar theme is found in the artistic depiction of epilepsy from the Inca and the Aztec civilizations of that time. After the 19th century drew to a close, the ascendancy of empiricism coincided with waning creative interest in epilepsy, with few paintings or pieces to capture insightful perspectives on the illness. In the paper, they review the relationship between art and epilepsy and present two contemporary paintings that convey current Western perceptions. And the article was, I'm glad I'm just read the abstract to you, because it gets boring. But historical accounts of epilepsy date back to 2000 BCE, with descriptions found in Assyrian and Babylonian texts. Over the course of millennia, the world has oscillated between drastically different notions of what epilepsy represents, notably whether it is a physical disease born of profane or an illness rooted in faith, divinity, and possession. During the Hellenistic epoch, the scholars declared epilepsy as merely a disease no more or no less sacred than any other. A divine explanation for ictus was explicitly rejected, and Hippocrates devised the revolutionary idea that epilepsy was a disorder of the brain. So it took them a while. For a long time, they just thought people were possessed. Like, they were just taken over by demonic possession, and the only way that they were going to solve the epilepsy was through praying and faith and having what are those things? They made a whole movie. The word's not coming to me. When they exorcism, geez almighty. Yeah, they would do exorcisms on people with epilepsy because they thought that they had been possessed by demonic forces, which is insane to people now. I mean, now it makes sense. Like, oh, but guess what? There's still cultures around the world that still believe it. Yeah, it's not out. It's not really gone. They still think that in some places, which is insane to me. Absolutely insane. The Christian prerogative was to exorcise the devil who had supposedly taken the control of the patient's body. The convulsions of the ictus came to symbolize the tormented spirit of the victim. The church urged the afflicted faithful to beseech the aid of the Saint Valentine, so identified in the patron saint of epilepsy. The patron saint. Oh my gosh. I mean, just even reading stuff like that hurts my soul. The one that really got me in this one, though. This is the one that I mean, it threw me off. I guess I hadn't really heard of this one. The history of the falling sickness and the dancing sickness. Like, I don't know if you the dancing disease or whatever. We're gonna have to get into it a bit. The falling sickness reveals much about the culture of times and artistic trends as it does in the state of medical knowledge. The physiology of epilepsy remains a work in progress. Nonetheless, vividly accurate portrayals of seizure semiology can be found in several artworks. That's boring. That's not what I'm looking for. Where was it now? So here we are. The dancing play in a spin, the mysterious dancing epidemic of 1518. So now, this is where I say that this was interesting to me, because once I go through something that's as serious as that last bit of information, then I come across something like this. I think just a article by John C. Waller. In a spin, the mysterious dancing epidemic of 1518. Now, once again, this is just a short volume of it, but this was amazing to me. In 1518, one of the strangest epidemics in recorded history struck the city of Strasbourg. Hundreds of people were seized by an irresistible urge to dance, hop, and leap into the air in houses, halls, and public spaces, as fear paralyzed the city, and the members of the elite despaired. The dancing continued with mindless intensity, seldom pausing to eat, drink, or rest. Many of them danced for days or even weeks. And before long, the chronicles agree dozens were dying from exhaustion. What was it that could have impelled as many as 400 people to dance, in some cases to death? The dancing plague. Perched alongside the Rhine River on the western edge of Holy Roman Empire, Strasbourg was a busy trading city. Its fairs frequented by merchants from across the continent. Sometime in mid-July 1518, a lone woman stepped into one of the narrow streets and began dancing vigil that was to last 4 or even 6 days in succession. Within a week, another 34 had joined the dance, and by the end of August, one chronicler asserts 400 people had experienced the madness dancing wildly. The next paragraph starts with ergot and epidemiology. So, I mean, ergot makes sense to me immediately. That's like that fungus that grows on corn that used to cause, they make wine and stuff out of it to cause people to get all loopy. The medieval dancing epidemics were not unrelated events. They were linked both in time and space. Every one of the 10 or so outbreaks between the late 1300s and 1518 happened along the Rhine and the Moselle rivers. In 1374, for instance, the crazed dance gradually spread out from the epicenter around the Aachen and Liège and the Maastricht to the Nuremberg. Neighboring towns such as Ghent, Utrecht, Metz, Trier, and eventually Strasbourg. Moreover, outbreaks of compulsive dancing virtually always struck in or close to, which is the Rhine River. It was just, so they go into it quite a bit more, but it's that's the thing is through time, it didn't matter what the reality of situations actually were, because at that time, They didn't understand what the heck was going on, so they were like sending they were sending in different spiritual leaders and religious leaders and all these people to try and stop these people from dancing, and then they'd end up part of the dance and stuff. Like, it was really weird. Some of the stuff I was reading, it was like, oh no.
So is that the reason for flash mobs?
I guess maybe that's what happened with flash mobs. They were sticking ergot in the local water
So
systems.
what is ergot? It's a mushroom, or is
It's a fungus. It's just a type of fungus, mold fungus.
It grows on corn.
It grew on corn back in the day. It's like this.
So how are they getting it by? They were just getting it by eating the corn that the other people were eating.
It was coming down the river. It was in different things. It was running through.
Air?
It was on the ground and running through the waters and everything. So it was. They don't know the exact reason because no scientists just knew what they were talking about. They just chronicled about it mostly. So they don't know the exact reasons. Is what's wild. They don't know why these people did it, but they just know they did it for a while. And I don't know. There's probably somebody out there who's studied into it more than I have. But all I know is, yeah, it's a rye fungus or whatever. Yeah.
You're all eating the bread.
Yeah, the breads. It comes on the corns. It was on all kinds of stuff. It'd be on the potatoes. Yeah, exactly. It's.
So they were just tripping face.
Yeah, that's the thing. Is they were all just going nuts on a thing, and that's what's crazy is, that was induced. That became like induced art of sorts. Realistically, they were all dancing. Whether they were probably all having a blast, other than the fact that they were dancing themselves to death. I mean, that's the wild part. But once the high wore off, they were good. But that's I'm like, man, how did some of them just stay like that? What was happening? And I was like, it must have been something to do with the water. But they were saying they wouldn't eat or drink. So I mean, like, well, maybe not. Like, man, I'm so confused on how
spores in the air or something.
It's like there's so many things I don't know enough about it. All I know is it's insane to me. And that's what I mean. I was like, I would be doing no favors if I just let everybody go about their life not hearing about this. It seemed it's pertinent. It's not about the.
It's one of those stories in a history class where you're like, okay, now I can get into it.
All right, yeah. That's it. There's so many things that I've learned through life that I bet I can go into here and it'll lead me back into epilepsy somehow. When I go into
priest showing up, he's gonna exorcise the demons out of you.
Yeah, that's it. Here we go. So you dip out that thing there. So that's a loop. Just loop and don't take the brown stuff. Well, I don't know what stuff they have, but it must have been way worse than the brown stuff. No, it was just such a neat story that and once it goes back to it, it's like the music and time has been something. Music and dance and creativity and all that has been something that people have used as a therapy and a way of being creative of taking that. Like I have a song, I'll give myself, for instance. I take my guitar and I get a sound in my head. I have a thought in my head. I'm thinking about something. When I make a beat on the computer, when I make any of this stuff, I have a thought in my head, a feeling. And what I'm trying to do is portray that feeling to everybody else through the music. And I have to find a creative way to do that every single time. And when I draw a picture, I have to draw it a certain way or else people will recognize it improperly. If I use the wrong colors, I could draw a really cool picture, but if I use darker colors, it may not come across as the feeling that I'm trying to portray to people, even though, maybe I just put the dark colors in there because that's what I had sitting there or something. You have to think about that when you do something that somebody could look at forever. Maybe especially as an artist, if somebody makes something and it ends up on a gallery wall, people are going to look at it forever. And every time somebody walks by that painting, they're going to interpret it their own way. And so when I'm going through all this epilepsy art and I'm looking at it, there's no doubt that it's the epilepsy art. When I go through, it's when I see the things that came from in paintings and such, and the poetry and the writings and stuff that came from people that they guaranteed were in fact epileptics, for sure. They were for sure epileptics. You could see there were patterns. There's patterns in the things that they do. It was, and as an epileptic myself, I was able to relate to this art. So like me trying to portray a feeling through my music, they're portraying their disease, their issue through their art. And that's awesome to me. That's awesome. And so I keep digging. So they say there were a lot of historical figures that had epilepsy, but then once they went through time and really studied these people and they come to find out not all these people were necessarily epileptic. They may have had other reasons why they had seizures, and so I there's an article by John Hughes. Let's see here. Be nice to me, computer. You want to? Hooray! First, yeah. At least it didn't crash like mine. Ay. 2.5-year-old computer.
I've had that one since 2017.
All right. Okay.
Heck, you bought it for me.
All right. Ain't that the truth? Ain't that the truth? You chatting for me over there? It's funny when Lucky and Steve talk through it a certain way, it says that it's me. And so they could say that they show up as my business page on Facebook.
Weird.
It's
Oh,
funny.
yeah, you told me that before.
Yeah, we gotta switch that one of these days. It just doesn't really matter. I'm Drew. And I bet it still has that pinned comment over there on the stream too. I cannot figure out how to make it go away. It asked me one time what I wanted to pin to the top comment, and it has never let it go away ever again. Oh man, that's funny. Oh.
Construction, if you need anybody.
Yeah. Musical and poetic creativity in epilepsy. Now, this article by Dale C. Hedsdorfer, with some parts in there by Michael Trimble, I guess. I'm not sure who either of those gentlemen are, but they you follow this link and you can find out more about them as well. The association between epilepsy and musical or poetry composition have received little attention, which is what I was finding. That's exactly what I found. They reviewed the literature on links between poetic and musical skills and epilepsy, limiting this to Western canon. But while several composers were said to have had epilepsy, John Hughes concluded that none of the major classical composers thought to have had epilepsy actually had it. The only composer with epilepsy they could find was the contemporary composer Hikari Oe, who has autism and developed epilepsy at age 15. In his childhood years, his mother found that he had an ability to identify bird sounds and the keys of songs and began teaching him piano. Hikari is able to compose in his head when his seizures are not severe, but when his seizures worsen, his creativity is lost. Music critics have commented on the simplicity of his musical composition and the monotonous sound. And when I read that hit me. That hit me huge. I mean, I literally the other day sat here for how long just trying to get my head to start being creative again. It takes me days sometimes.
So wait, they said that music critics trashed him because his sounds were monotonous and
yeah, they would get simple. his sounds would get very simple. So like a certain, when he was in his episodes, the stuff that he would do while he was having episodes in his life, were very simple. But when he was not, when his seizures weren't as bad, he would make much more complex stuff. So and how often do I sit here and I'm like, oh, I've had a seizure, even a small one, and then I sit here and I'm like, man, I don't feel creative today. I don't want to touch any of the instruments. I'm like, I don't want to, like, I just feel like, and it's not like a depression because I'm not depressed. Like, that's a different thing entirely. I mean, depression is depression. I'm not depressed. But I lack all feeling. I feel just shut down, completely shut down. I'm not allowed to breathe tonight. But
have you looked up like famous people today with epilepsy?
It turns out a lot of people are more closed off about it than you find out. I think is what it comes down to. People don't want people to know, and I understand that. Trust me, I pretended I didn't have anything wrong with me for many, many years.
Lil Wayne has epilepsy?
Apparently, he had a seizure on stage the one time.
Danny Glover, Prince, Hugo Weaving. I don't know who some of these people are. Oh, Theodore Roosevelt, Susan Boyle, Martin Cab, Bud Abbott. I don't know.
There's like two actual famous people in there. Although that Susan Boyle, she's pretty famous.
Singer, actor.
She's awesome.
She looks weird.
Yeah, she's a unique one, that's for sure. I remember her. She sang something really, really, really well. And then you'd see her and it would be shocking. And it wasn't that you were trying to be rude or anything, but you'd see her and you'd be like, oh, that's
Rick Harrison from Pawn Stars has epilepsy.
I believe I've heard that before. I don't know. Yeah, hey, who knows? Hey, maybe he'd come on.
Harriet Tubman.
Yeah, I'll go get Harriet. Hey, Harriet, can I resurrect you and ask you some questions? In fact, let me just jump through all the really important stuff and we'll just ask you about whether you had epilepsy. I think I can come up with way better questions for Harriet Tubman. Oh, shoot.
Edgar Allan Poe.
Oh, that's what I mean. A lot of those names, they have been disputed. Well, here, yeah. So let me allow me to get there here. Let's see.
Elton John, though.
There was something in this one. Let me find it here. Much has been written in the last few years of the theme of creativity and genius. The literature has its origins in antiquity. The idea that there is a direct link between creativity and the arts and madness was one feature in Greek philosophy, and many distinguished names are associated with the theme ever since. Views have ranged from the divine inspiration of the genius mind to the view that somehow mental illness provides the upsprung for creativity, possibly a means of coping with the illness. So essentially saying that it's not really that it helps, that being epileptic will make you more creative necessarily, but that people that are epileptic tend to use coping mechanisms. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people use art as a coping mechanism. And so the connection is that it works as a good coping mechanism, is what they're saying, is what they're finding based off of their research. The former view implicates exterior forces activating the mind. The latter looks into interiority, a romantic perspective. Implicit in the latter is that the manifestations of the illness may color the creative output. A psychoanalytic possibility is that creativity itself is a form of neurosis. In much of this literature, little attention is given either to the kind of mental illness referred to, at least in today's terms, and links to specific art forms have tended to concentrate on poets and painters. Associations between musicians, psychopathology, and have been discussed. But those between epilepsy and either poetic or musical composition have received little attention. They review the literature on links between poetic and musical skills and psychopathology. but they confined their search to just like Western Canaan. There was one other part. Yes, this is something that I found very, very in fact the part right after that refers to what you were talking about. There are several studies that have examined psychopathology in creative people, but few have either differentiated between the various art forms, and virtually none that have looked specifically at epilepsy. Several earlier studies reviewed elsewhere used different designations for psychiatric disorders from current terminologies. For example, Judah, in a study of 294 gifted personalities from a, can you go turn that off, please? Oh my goodness. So loud. For example, Judah, in a study of 294 gifted personalities from a total of 19,000 people from German-speaking countries, noted psychopathy in 27% of the artists. That's so they found 27% of 294 gifted personalities out of 19,000 people were basically crazy. So a quarter of them were nuts of the respected artists out of 19 people. Not surprised. Not even kind of.
Well, I mean, look at Kanye West. He's bipolar, and he's like been noted for being like super psychotic. But then they say that he won't take his meds when he's writing his new albums and stuff. So
Yeah,
it just like gets even crazier.
yeah. He's well. That's the thing is when he takes all that medicine, he loses his creativity, is what it says. And I remember that when I would take all those medicines, that's exactly what was happening. I would get to a point where I would just feel uncomfortable. I would just feel disappointed and upset that I just couldn't think right. Like, damn it, why can't I just feel like myself? I just want to feel like me. And then it came to my attention that I was like, the more pills that I take, the less I feel like me. And I didn't seem to be getting any better from the pills. I kept having the same amount of seizures while on the pills as I was off of the pills. And that was the annoying part, was that we kept trying different things. And regardless, I continued to get nowhere.
Well, you still take medication though. So
That's the thing that I
you're
said.
kind of a hypocrite in saying that.
I have medicine, but I so rarely do I take it.
Yeah, but you need it.
It's here, and I don't really know if I do.
I think you need it. I think that without it, you'd have had a lot more episodes.
I really think they need to start. We need to look into getting the meds where you request to have your meds created for you,
yeah,
specifically, so that they don't have different additives and stuff that you know that you're allergic to.
There are allergic to certain ingredients and medications.
That's what I mean.
So they have them created for them. That was one of the issues with. I remember when I was in school, they talked about a problem with the creating meds for people and how they had done it wrong or something. And it was like for people with like multiple sclerosis or something like that. It was like some really rare disease. And they created all these medications up in Massachusetts in a really dirty lab where like the dumpsters were like right next to the lab. And they were like, I don't know, it was just really unsanitary conditions. And the people like ended up getting sick and dying because they were getting all these they were supposed to be, I can't remember the term for it, but when they make your meds for you or whatever. And all these people like ended up with like degenerative diseases. They started having seizures, started like dying from taking that medication because they were creating them in a dirty lab.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I could look it up.
So Hughes in his paper, did all those famous people really have epilepsy? That was literally the name of the paper. That's what he notes. The few composers who have been suggested to have epilepsy, such as Handel, Beethoven, Schumann, Berlioz, Tchaikovsky, only to dismiss the evidence. Haydn, Mussorgsky, I guess. I don't know Mussorgsky. were thought to have epilepsy, but this was later refuted. Haydn in later life had a stroke and was given a diagnosis of subcortical vascular encephalopathy, and Mussorgsky was an alcoholic and experienced alcohol withdrawal seizures. So they're like, at points they would say, oh, these people would read in history, oh, this person had a seizure. It was documented they had a seizure, and then they go back and they'd find like other reasons why they would be having non-epileptic seizures.
Yeah.
Under today's terms. So it's like back at some points they would have called them epileptics. But then after a while, when they realized, oh, they were having these seizures because of some other reason, then they stopped being called, they stopped saying that, oh, well, those people were epileptics. And that's just science changing with the times. You know, when you learn things, you understand things better, you create new categories, and sometimes you got to create a new subcategory to put certain people in. And that's going to be very important coming up here in the next part, because there really is, yeah, that paper is available on here from the Science Directing. If you're trying to look into it, you can get to this J.R. Hughes article, and it's basically what it says. It is. It didn't interest me once I got there, but it also, I was looking for specific art, so it wasn't where I was trying to find my things. But let's see here. We certainly need healthcare in this country. That would be fantastic if we could just work towards everybody having healthcare, not giving away all our money. Oh, okay. Well, then let me what time we got here?
Yeah, it's called the Massachusetts Drug Lab Scandal.
Oh.
And a bunch of people, well, the people that ran the lab like knew that the lab was tainted, basically, and were putting out all these medications that they knew were bad. They knew that they weren't made in a clean sanitary lab, and everything just kind of kept getting covered up. And the people that ran the lab weren't really even accredited. And so I guess the case is still ongoing. And it happened in 2012, I believe.
Dang.
The Hinton lab in 2012, yeah. But I guess a judge just threw out a bunch of people's want for a retrial.
Interesting.
It was in Amherst. Amherst Drug Lab Scandal. Drug defendants splitting in state lab scandal settlement. June 2nd, 2022. So I guess they did settle.
All right, so we'll get that to there. Let's see here.
31,000 people got injured by drugs in the lab.
That's insane. That's crazy.
Roughly 31,000 defendants.
It took 31,000 people to realize you were doing something wrong.
Oh, they already knew. I watched a video on it. It was pretty heart-wrenching, because there's a panel of the people that had taken the drugs, and they're all just sitting there, and they all have like all these degenerative diseases and stuff from taking the drugs, and they're like sitting there like all decrepit and stuff, and you just like, and most of them are like bawling, and like they can't walk, like some of them can't talk, and it was an injection. It was like a type of injection. It was in Amherst. Roughly 31,000 defendants who had criminal convictions vacated in the wake of a massive state drug lab scandal are poised to split about $14 million in settlements payments under a new agreement between their lawyers and Attorney General Maura Healey. Healey's team and attorneys representing defendants whose convictions were based in part of now discredited evidence produced by a pair of disgraced state chemists including a Northampton woman who worked at the state drug lab in Amherst, filed a proposed settlement Wednesday that would require Massachusetts to reimburse legal costs tied to convictions lifted in connection with wrongdoing by the state chemists. Each person who qualifies under the class action settlement, which still needs to be approved by a judge, would receive a minimum of $150. Some could get more than $1,000 after paying that much in fees for probation, parole, GPS monitoring, drug analysis, and other conviction-associated costs. The settlement agreement calls for creating a standalone account overseen by a third-party administrator. Refund amounts will be based on the trial court, state police, parole board, and registry of motor vehicles records. Any defendant covered by the class action lawsuit who still has a conviction in place would receive a 50% discount to the trial court payment. So this is saying that they're paying out the people who were a part of the lab. Okay, so this is the opposite of what I was thinking. They're paying out the people who worked in the lab, not the victims. That's weird.
What?
That's really weird.
How does that make sense? I don't get it.
Former state chemist Sandra Farrick pleaded guilty in 2014 to tampering with evidence in connection with her own drug addiction and stealing drugs from an Amherst lab. This seems like a different story than the one I'm thinking of. Yeah, this is like a different story, I believe. But this is weird.
Yeah.
Sounds like a bunch of people trying to cover up their shady lab, though. Oh, that's a different story. I'm going to have to find the one I'm thinking of.
Well, that's still unique. Well, regardless.
Sorry.
So I'm going to pull up. I'll just throw this up here real quick. I'm going to take a quick slug some water break. As soon as I get this up here, we'll play a quick track.
Steve is back if you want him to do it.
Why does it keep starting every time I put it back to stop?
She falsified drug abuse, or she falsified people's
Right.
drug.
Did you hear me?
No, I didn't.
Okay. Steve is back. Do you want him to play the song?
Oh, I don't know. What if he's ready? Yeah. If not, I got this one up and ready to go. So it's whatever's faster.
All right. Well, yeah, you can just play your thing.
All right. Yeah, he can play us out too. Well, that's always an option. Welcome to my journey into space. Welcome to my journey into space. Come on my journey into space. Love this journey into space. High vibes, low-fi. Blast myself off to a space delight. Leaving a world behind. I don't mind. Is this a trick? Man, space is legit. Check out these moons, peep on these stars. This parallel universe is taking us far. Outside this galaxy, what's left for me to see? This travel seems endless. Will this ship ever stop? Who cares? I don't want to get off. Take me to the next place. Beauty must be sought.
Trust me, there's a lot. If you wanna find it, don't sit back. Find yourself spineless. Life beholds diamonds. Far back in time, I left all my bullshit behind. No more shine left in my face. So I took this journey to outer space. Met a few aliens, learned of the master plan. Seek the talent of the worlds and compile them. So here I am with my piece, a little part of me to share with the galaxy. This was my journey to space. This was my journey into space. Can't get enough of this journey into space. Come tag along, come with me. We can take a journey into space.
Can you believe it? I'm still here with the second half of this fantastic conversation. I came across a couple people specifically that really caught my attention. They truly caught my attention to the point that I reached out. I've been in contact with one of the people, and I'm hoping that possibly sometime in the near future we'll get to have them on here to discuss their topics and such. Tonight, though, I'd like to I'd like to go over one of the more I'd say it was one of the most descriptive things I've seen. It's like somebody trying to explain an acid trip or something. The whole time you're there, you're believing, you're having mind breakthroughs, and you're thinking about all this amazing stuff, and then once it's over, it's like, wait, what was I thinking about? What? You know, I guess it's one of those things, trying to explain epilepsy, like the actual feeling, the actual what I'm actually feeling in the moment for different types of seizures that I have, different things. It's hard to explain it without feeling or sounding dramatic. Oh, this is insane. Fair enough. Well, that's also the same with epilepsy as well. It always depends on the person, because everybody's feelings are different. The way everybody feels, yeah, that's all I'm referring to that. Truly, the way of trying to explain how I feel for each type of seizure, because I have simple and complex partial seizures. I also have generalized tonic-clonic seizures, and it's hard to explain what I feel during, before, after, in hindsight, even. Like, I mean, they have words for it, and I go over it, the pre, inter, post-ictal, ictal state, different, the way that you feel. And there's a word for it, but I can say that word, but unless you've been there, it's kind of hard to describe it to somebody and allow them to understand what it is that you experienced. Like, you can tell somebody about an acid trip, but unless they try it, they're never going to know what that feels like. You can't explain it. And so when I came across this video, with an artist who had not only come up with her own method for explaining how she was feeling, but it's now become a way for them to help with recognizing patterns in other epileptics and even non-epileptics. And so I'd like to show a video. Let's see here. Okay. This is all set up there. Okay. So now I'm only going to show a couple parts of this. This is a very, very long video. But there were some very, very important things that they covered. And I think if you see these couple parts, you'll be able to find interest enough in probably watching this yourself. I mean, if you can find interest in what I'm talking about, this was incredible. This was awesome. This was absolutely awesome. So allow me to just, I'll play this, and then we'll come back here in a few minutes. I'll pause this, and then we'll discuss what they were talking about, and then there's another part a little bit later on that I'd also like to discuss. So, so here we go.
You have a bit of an understanding about it before we start. We're going to talk about the seizure assessment sculpture, which is kind of the inspiration for Sarah to create all of her own sculptures. And then we will Sarah's going to talk more about associating brain surgery, and we are also going to add in a little bit about visual expression as a healthy way to cope. So this is my slide I use all the time, definition of art therapy. The ADA is American Art Therapy Association, and that is their big, long definition, which is nice. The Arts and Medicine at Cleveland Clinic, we whittled it down. So basically, it's so when we go and see patients, we can explain to them what art therapy is in a way that they will understand and not be frightened by it. Because sometimes when you use words like applied psychological theory, it frightens people. So we're really engaging people in the therapeutic creation of art to assist with their emotional and physical healing and growth. The benefits of art therapy, it's a nonverbal form of expression. Within the hospital, it can help normalize the environment. It gives patients an opportunity to have choice and control. And that's one thing that's missing in a hospital stay. You're told when you wake up, you're told when blood is being drawn, you're told when everything is happening to you. But art therapy allows you to make choice again in the creation of your art. It promotes coping, again, through that nonverbal expression. It can divert from pain and anxiety to major issues in the hospital. And it also does their skills. There are generally two types of art therapy. Insight-oriented, which is what you're going to see, that Sarah's art is very insight-oriented. Creation of art with the goal of gaining emotional and cognitive insights about yourself as the patient. The art therapist processes that art with the patients, which is basically discussing it with them, talking about it, pointing out things that they noticed and asking the patient to talk about those things. The idea of it is to create a triadic relationship between the art, the therapist, and the patient. And when you're talking about the art, it is less threatening, theoretically, than just asking them about themselves. But we're still really talking about them. The other type of art therapy is art therapy or art-based therapy, which is the creation of art as a therapeutic process all on its own. So we might talk about the art, or the patient may not be ready to talk about the art and they just want to create it. That therapeutic process of creating the art is still art therapy. And a lot of other goals are met, especially in the hospital, through art-based therapy. Okay, so a long time ago, maybe not that long, Sarah was a student, an intern with me at Cleveland Clinic, and she created something called the seizure assessment sculpture. This became her thesis and research, which so I'm actually going to let her talk about this.
Was defining the differences between types of seizures. And it just kind of naturally came out on its own. When I had given the directive to patients to depict their seizure, we had identified that people with non-epileptic seizures and epileptic seizures depicted them in completely different ways, which was pretty kind of extraordinary for art. We'll go through a few different examples on how this kind of showed up in the art. So the directive was a very controlled study. The directives were the same. On how the sculpture I asked to here is it with the pipe cleaners nose. The pipe, twisty pipe coming on the head. They could do it any way they wanted to. And then on the face, they were asked to depict their emotions relating to their seizures. And then the other side was just supposed to be depicting self, what that would look like. The big differences in these were the people who had generalized seizures would have these kind of fiery bolts of electricity coming out of their head. And it was all over the head. So it wasn't any focal area, it was just all over. Some of them would incorporate the feathers, kind of like the fuzzy, foggy feeling, but that was kind of the main difference with the generalized seizures. Then the focal seizures would be completely different. They were more curly, more inward. They were usually typically in one location. We had wanted to do a secondary study to follow it up to see if it would then the patients would localize it in one area. We didn't get around to doing that, but this was really fascinating to a point where they would kind of localize it in one area of the brain, different from being all over the brain comparatively.
And it was generally the place they were actually having the seizure.
Mm-hmm. And then they often depicted their aura, if they're having one on their face. Like for this patient, she had like tingly feelings on her face. She would say like ants. They also were much more emotionally dysregulated than other patients, and you could see that when it came out on the facial representations. And then we come to the non-epileptic patients. Their seizure depiction was drastically different than the epilepsy patients in themselves, and this was represented by an inward or encapsulated representation of the pipe cleaners going downward. So instead of coming off the head like a fiery electrical appearance, they manifested it in the same way they manifested their stress going inward. So for the medical field, do you want to explain?
Yes, just to be before so speeches are abnormal, but actually all the signal and will have the discharges firing off correctly all the time as part of the human condition. But in a seizure, you can get a network of nerve cells firing incorrectly. And that network can be focal, so it can start at one part of the brain. So, for example, if you have a stroke, you have brain injury, and seizures might start in that one part of the brain. They may then spread. Or it can be generalized. And generalized epilepsies may be genetic. For example, they've had a specific gene alteration from birth. And those discharges start all over the brain. And that's what you're seeing in the art here, is the difference between even clinically for JR, it can be very difficult to tell a non-epileptic attack from an epileptic seizure. Neither are voluntary. A non-epileptic attack is an attack that looks like a seizure, but there isn't electrical activity that's abnormal within the brain. So the networks are firing correctly, but there is still a non-epileptic seizure. This manifestation which we're seeing here.
So this one was, this visual depiction was really shocking when we did it, because that manifestation of how the stress was being represented visually came up in the same downward representation of how it was being manifested in the body. So they put all their stress down inward their body, and it was not the electrical activity. There was also this very section around the eye that always came up, and we talked about the emotional trauma on the face, high emotional intensity that would happen in the patients. And like I said, with the focal seizures, you would have, they represented more emotion. With the non-epileptic patients, this representation around the eye that was more enhanced came up in almost every single one of them.
In the hospital prior to this.
So I'm just want to make note. I'm not sure. My connection may completely go out. I'm not sure if I'm skipping to everybody. It's kind of getting rough out here. Yeah, Philly's pretty good for that. They're pretty good for that. I'm not surprised in the least. I come from the other corner of the state, but I spent many days in the other corner. Always a good time down in Philly.
I've never been to Philadelphia.
Really?
No,
We haven't gone to Philly at all?
We flew into the airport, but we never actually went and did anything there.
Gosh.
We take connectors there from here to Wilmington.
All my good stories were pre Lala, I guess. Regardless.
I've never even been in New York City.
Interesting. Well, I said regardless. The this lady here, Sarah, she took this drive safe. She took these basically these mannequin heads, and she told everybody in these groups to design what you feel like when you're having a seizure, when you're being stuck into an episode. Hey, thank you. And the consistency in the art was intense. They truly as I watched this video, I wasn't sure how much I was going to be able to relate to, because this was about a woman who had already had brain surgery. But this was not only a way for her to learn about other epileptics. This was her way of learning about her and helping guide herself. This was a woman who was having 200 seizures a day and had to have a brain surgery where they removed a part of her brain. And when she came back, she couldn't talk. She couldn't think. She couldn't read. She lost a lot of her basic skills, basic abilities. She had to relearn all of it. And so the lady that's speaking to you on this video went from somebody who couldn't get their seizures under control to somebody who had brain surgery, to somebody who had lost all their basic motor skills and memory, to somebody who's now fighting to try and get memories and try and relearn how to be normal. Whatever that is. I think she's hyper focused on the normal, but that's neither here nor there. Ooh, cool. Let's call that guy. I bet it's really helpful. I'll say it in 8 languages. Oh, I can't read any of them, but it's okay. The things that she has went through and been able to accomplish through everything that she's done is far more impressive than you'd probably give her credit for if I had just left the video right here. This truly was a way to her awakening, and it's still her way. She still continues. So this is an 1.5 hour long video. And like I said, I'm not going to play the whole thing, but I do have one. Oh, that you blocked the spam chat. They sent a WhatsApp. So I'm trying to get me to show the WhatsApp thing. Sorry, I just laugh at. They always send it in like so many languages, and I'm always laughing. I'm like, you're gonna spam me. Might as well do it in my language.
If that's on Facebook, so nobody on YouTube knows what you're talking about.
Oh, that's hilarious.
So I can show them. This is what he's talking about. It was a Facebook chat thing. Because I'm sitting here going, Steve, no one knows what he's talking about. Maybe I should show him. It's like you're responding to the chat, but it's a Facebook one, so no one on YouTube.
This is what I mean. This is why I don't do this all by myself. This is why I have a lucky.
Case in point.
Right? Well, so regardless, this girl truly did have a way of explaining her feelings that turned out to be an excellent way for others, for them to help others explain their feelings. And so, let me see here. 107. Well, that was much easier than I expected. Okay, so I'm gonna start this back up for a minute here. She's gonna talk about a couple more things that I really felt were important to show you who this woman is, because up until this point, she just seems like another one of the doctors or one of the nurses. But she was far from that. She's an artist, and art was her therapy, and art is what's keeping her sane. Honestly, at so many points, this lady sounded like she was telling my story. So I'm going to turn this back back on here real quick.
As Howard says about being in a supportive environment, I could have voice and be equal to other people. I represented this one by the honeybee, where the honeybee is nurturing. You can be part of an environment, but you also work individually. So this is the first one I actually included eyes with and opened and seen. And this one happens in the environment where I am currently working, where I have been surrounded with an incredibly supportive staff, and have had Tammy and others, directors and supervisors, that have been incredibly nurturing for me. And I say that because without that nurturing, accepting environment, I wouldn't know how to accept myself as a person, not the epilepsy. And that's really the second part of what comes afterwards. It's not just accepting the diagnosis and then you're done with it. It's okay, now how can I accept myself as who I am? And that comes with being provided a space where someone has actually shown you what that looks like. Self-validation came with knowing what compassion looked like. Compassion for me, as you can tell from the other sculptures, was not easy. I remember working with a therapist and they would talk about compassion all the time and I'd be like, can you just stop? I just did not know how to get to compassion. And I remember when I looked up Dr. Wilson online, that was the first time I had known that all these experiences were normal to go through. And that was one of the first times that I could say, okay, well, I'm no different than anybody else, which is why I say the pre-rehabilitation is so important, and then the rehabilitation is so important because for about a decade there, it was, well, move on, grow up, get over it. But if you have someone that says, no, you're actually adjusting like anybody else would adjust, and this is normal to go through, it makes a big difference.
And I think you accepting that, because it is self-validation. Because
Yes.
people could tell you that for years, that you're fine. If it's until you get it, and now I'm just gonna point this out to you. This one I think is the opposite of that Frankenstein one, because now in the neck, there are birds that are a symbol of freedom and flight. Like, they don't have to be there, they're hanging out, but they can fly away. And we've gone from that hard metal, nails in the head to growth. Beautiful things that are growing, and pink happens to be Sarah's favorite color, or one of them, I know that. But so I think that this one is just so great. So it's just that, like, the growth from that sort of self, flagellation and taking in everybody's daggers, nails, to being able to grow and see yourself as something more than your seizures, more than your illness.
I think we're going to say something about if we have a difficult journey, we want to make other people feel that difficult journey. And if they're not sort of weighing off, it's the same feeling being affected that we can measure with other. So that takes a lot of time, no matter what it is, whether it's grief, for example, whether it's epilepsy surgery, whether it's an illness, it can be very difficult to get to that point. And once you get to that point, hopefully you begin to ease.
And that's, I mean, they're both beautiful. So that was, and doing it for me was facing this change and compassion. If you don't know what that looks like, if you don't know how to get there, a lot of times I'll talk in clinic with my patients about, it really starts with accepting yourself, or accepting your feelings, or accepting what you're going through in that experience, and that it's okay to have whatever your experience is in that moment. For many people, we'll see them say, well, I've never been told that I can have my feelings or have any emotions or thoughts that I've been able to go through. And we'll say that's where you need to start, is just giving yourself permission to have whatever experience you have right now in this moment. And that was that transition phase where I was just like, okay, then I can give that to myself, and that was compassion for me. And it didn't require anything from anybody else, and that was where I was like, that's where that depression, like that mold broke, and I was like, I can do this for me, and I don't need that from someone else anymore. Did you want to?
So, essentially, when I first started watching this video, I found the emotion to be dark, kind of pessimistic. It was kind of it was making me feel emotional. Not like a crying emotion, but just I could. It was causing me to, as she would say things, I was able to relate so much, even without having had brain surgery. A lot of the feelings she was discussing, I felt as well. I feel them every day. And she had spent a lot of the time in that video talking about how she just wanted to work towards feeling normal, being like everybody else. She just wanted to be like everybody else. And she didn't realize how close to everybody else she really was. Like, I mean, good to see you. She really does. She has a very, very similar story to many, many people. And the fact that she was able to go through so much, those brain surgeries, all the years of taking meds and putting up with all the side effects and everything else, she was able to overcome. And if you heard in that last part, that one of the sculptures she had spoke about was this one, Lady Liberty meets Frankenstein. Let's see if it'll pop up quickly. Apparently, they don't want to show it to us. It says that that's the part, but it doesn't seem to be one to show us. So it showed one of the sculptures she had done was. I'm just going to shut that off so it stops skipping everything else. It had part of it was like Lady Liberty, and half of it was Frankenstein. And it had like bolts on the neck, but it also had like the Liberty spikes coming off the top of her head, because she felt invigorated and free from all the seizures, because she had the surgery and she finally wasn't having all those seizures. But now she felt trapped under she keeps getting trapped under the weight of dealing with one of her biggest problems was her memory. She has trouble remembering words, which at the beginning of this, I said, that's one of my biggest problems. But one of the things she has a real big problem was remembering certain parts of her life. No matter how hard she tries, she'll never just come up with these memories. And she's starting to find that the more that as she's speaking with other people and she hears other people tell stories, she begins to be able to remember things. It strikes memories in her head, which is very uplifting for her. She was very, very happy when she was able to come up with these memories, like, oh, I would have never have thought about that. But now that somebody else said it to me, I remember. That's most people. That's kind of how memory works. That's why it's tough having conversations with weirdos like me, because as soon as you say something that sparks another thing in my head, I get yapping. That video was beautiful. What that girl went through was beautiful. The cameraman is horrible. Or camera person. I don't know who's behind the camera, but they're a terrible camera person. They're in a media room where I see multiple cameras and multiple speakers, yet they put them at a table with no microphone and then put somebody's head in front of the microphone so that you can't hear the doctor speak most of the time. So it's kind of odd. So I could do no help for the video portion of it, but the content of the video is amazing, and that woman is inspiring, and it has truly helped me feel some relief. Like I'm not feeling the same anxiety. And I think what's been helping me since like June, July, August, I really haven't been able to be myself. What's kept me from going crazy? Allowing my creativity to flourish. I mean, whether everything I make is gold or not, I don't have dreams of grandeur, so I don't really care. But I have so much fun. And now the fact that I've been able to use music as a way to help me work on my memory skills, on my abilities to every time I sit there and I remember my way up and down that fretboard, it helps me remember other things. I don't know how to explain it, but it's just like when I play games like Sudoku and Killer Sudoku and do cryptograms. I love those types of games. They really make my mind work. They work with memory. They help me work. They're very small, very simple things, and they give me goals to accomplish. Try to do them faster. I used to do the cryptograms in high school. I would do the ones in the newspaper, and I'd only get the 42 minutes during study hall in the library to be able to get them done. And so the librarian would print it out for me. I'd bring her the newspaper. She'd copy it, And then I just sit there at the table just in case anybody else ever wanted to do it. And nobody ever did. So they let me write in the paper after a while. But I did the cryptograms every day. And that was one of those things that really my comprehension of language changed. When I do Sudoku, my comprehension of math changes. When I play the guitar, my comprehension of sound changes. That's for sure. That's for sure. Coping, her ability to cope, that was absolutely. So I've really gained a lot from music and art. And without even realizing it, I've been using it as my therapy for months. And by golly, it's helped. It's helped me through upset times. It's helped me through manias. It's hard sometimes to keep myself being that person that I know that I am. But it's my ultimate goal. It's just to be me. And I truly am glad that I took the time to research the things that I did this week for this episode, because it gave me hope. It gave me faith that if things do get that bad, where they do say, hey man, part of your brain's coming out, that it doesn't mean it's the end of my world. That doesn't mean it's the end of me. I mean, I can't guarantee it, but it sounds like a possibility, at least. And that's helpful. And I mean, some people do it art therapy, and they don't even do it on purpose. Just like that lady said in that other video that we were just watching. You don't necessarily have to be trying. So I guess I'd like to let me see. I got one more thing. I know probably nobody even really watching the Super Bowl's on tonight, and I'm not all that important, so I'm sure most people are out partying, having a good time. So I'm sure I'm going to be peeking at the score here soon as well. But there we go. I'm gonna cross my fingers on this one. As we all know, the hopefully that pops up properly. Yeah, feel free to pop his comment there up there. I wasn't in good shape last week for their open mic, but I'm doing better this week, so I have a feeling I'm going to be there for a 70s, 80s open mic. I'm sure I can come up with something. I don't even know who's playing. He says that if it wasn't for the fact that I really wanted to see Cincinnati. I'm a Dolphins fan, but I really wanted to see Cincinnati get in there. I really did. But I'll let me make this. I'll just spit this out real quick. Make sure I cover it. This gentleman right here, artist brings hidden truths of epilepsy to light in art exhibition at Marina Park. This is from the Daily Pilot. I don't pay attention to Daily Pilot, but when I came across this article, it was fantastic to read and to hear about. Unique art show sought to promote awareness of epilepsy and to empower individuals living with neurological disorder that cause seizures. Basically, he's somebody who's gone through so much of what I've gone through, and now he's had to have more. He's had the surgeries. They removed 3 millimeters of his brain, and he had to relearn how to walk, speak, read, write. And it allowed him this week to say he's been seizure free since 2018, August 2018. And I hope that's still the way that it was. I see this article wasn't like yesterday or anything, so I hope that's still the September of last year. So I mean, it's not that long ago, but hopefully this gentleman, Zach Beckemeyer, I believe is how it would be pronounced. But you know me, I say everybody's just a human, and if you approach them, they're usually just humans, and most people will have a conversation with you. I reached out to this gentleman, and I'm hoping next week, so sometime this week. He seemed very cordial. He responded quickly, and he was very nice. And I'm either going to interview him sometime this week, hopefully, or possibly have him on next week's episode to come on and kind of just discuss his story. I mean, we've heard my story enough times, and I'm sure everybody's bored of me anyway. So hopefully we can get somebody else on here to come tell a story and kind of just give a different perspective and see if we can't hear something else. But I do recommend that video that I was showing oh goodness gracious, and of course there's my memory. I've watched the entire video. I did the entire thing, and it's already a lost thought in my head. Exploring epilepsy through art. I really do. It's put on by St. Edmund Hall. So it's on YouTube, easy to find. I really hope that if that interested you at all, that you check into that video, because I can't explain her feelings for her, but her mannequins can, and she just reminded me of me. Vulnerable. Emotional. Eccentric. Articulate. So I'm gonna try and continue to reach out to her. She had the most generic name in the history of names, so I have not found her yet. But hopefully when I do, I can get her to come and talk about it. I mean, once again, people are just humans. Yeah, I don't. That's what I say. She absolutely. It was like she was reading my writings or something. It was almost weird. It was like literally listening to my story, and the way that I explained things, and the way she described taking medications and being over medicated. One of the sculptures was just pill bottles all over her head, like spikes coming out of the head, but it was all pill bottles. And I'm like, man, every time I look at one of these, I'm like, other than a couple where I'm like, I don't know if I feel those emotions, but I'm not her. So of course I don't feel those emotions. Those are her emotions. We're not the same person. Nobody's the same person. But together we're stronger. Together we're stronger. So I'm really hoping that I can get this other gentleman to follow through. And I really hope that no matter what happens, that I don't lose my creativity. I have a word for that. But what do you know? You're not alone. I'm right here. And I'm easy to reach. I put a lot of effort into this guitar thing. And I'm starting to try and find other people that want to play along with me. And because I don't want to be a solo act forever. So I've been really pushing myself. And that's how I do everything. I push myself hard until I reach my goals. And once I find that rhythm at the most hardest pace, it no longer feels like a hard pace. It just feels like the pace. So I ramp myself to overdrive, and I push myself, and I exert myself until it doesn't feel like I'm pushing or exerting myself. It just feels like the way. I don't want to lose that. I don't want to lose that. Art and creativity have probably saved me more times in my life than I could even imagine. Unknowingly helped me cope with many, many things. And I'm glad I've had it. So, I have to find a spot that if you do it right, you can. Uh-oh. Oh no! What happened? Wow! I'm surprised we haven't seen Lala. It's like her favorite thing to do when I have the brick background on is run up and be the Kool-Aid girl. Oh man. Well, I hope everybody has a great week. Thank you for stopping by. Well, that's what I said. You could have come and made it. You could have been here the whole time. And really do appreciate people stopping by. I hope we can. Hope I can keep bringing. Oh shit! What happened there? Apparently, she's wasn't gonna let that go.
No, that was my joke. You stole it from me.
Thanks, Kool-Aid, Drizzy. Kool-Aid La.
They go, Kool-Aid Zach.
Oh, Kool-Aid Cat.
He's been following you around for
He's-
the
yeah,
past
he's
2 hours.
he's been awful lovey.
Wherever I go, he follows.
Well, it's funny because he sat there and was meowing at the door, and every time our cats meow, it throws off the people watching. They end up thinking it's their cat.
Yeah.
It's like even
Such that was
Yeah.
Everett.
Well, off to not watch the Super Bowl. Hope everybody has a great week. And much love to everybody for stopping by. I've
You look so depressed.
I get to investigate my my disability and learn about myself, and speaking about it helps me remember things, and so I get benefit out of this regardless of how things go. So this has been very helpful for me. So those who stop by that do show support, I truly appreciate it. And everybody have a great week. Because what do you know? You're not alone. I'm right here. And there's Lala. She's here too. Peace.